everyone! I'm so excited to be back. It's been a minute, but today I'm going to be resurrecting my YouTube channel as a booktube, and I'm so excited. Today's video is about season 2 of Shadow and Bone, and I just want to start this video off by saying if you haven't seen the new season, if you haven't finished it, if you haven't read any of the books in the Grishaverse, I would not watch this video. But if you still want to watch this video, to each their own, and let's get into it. I have a list here. I have a list of all the talking points I want to discuss. Because a Virgo always comes prepared, and I'm just so excited to sit down and talk about everything with you because no one I know reads the books and no one I know has watched the show. So like, I have to let out all of these feelings, you know? Okay, so let's start. Let's start with Alina's character. So Alina's character in the show is kind of like a shell of herself, I would say, because in the book she's such a badass, like she's that strong female character that you love, but in the show I feel like they kind of didn't do her justice. I feel like she was very weak, like she was like crying, and don't get me wrong, like if I was in her situation, like I would cry too, but I feel like in the book she's so much braver and she's so much stronger than she is portrayed in the book, in the show. And I wish they just did it a little bit differently, just for her sake. And Tolia's character, I also felt like they kind of did him an injustice as well, because I feel like they used him as comedic relief. And in the book, again, he's another strong character, and in the show they're like, oh, like let's have him recite his poems all the time, and tomorrow's gonna be like, oh, like aggressive eye roll. But like, don't get me wrong, I thought it was funny, I laughed, I liked it, but I just feel like his character is like so empowered and so cool in the books, and they didn't portray that in the way I wanted to in the show. And Tamar, I really wish Tamar had more screen time because I thought she was so cool in the books with her axes and everything. Like, I would love to see more of her. But Nikolai, I love Nikolai, and the actor that plays him is like, he does it so well, and I just love him. Nikolai was one of the reasons why I continued to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, because I'll be honest with you, I don't love Alina and I don't love Malin. Like, I don't like them together, but I loved Nikolai, and he was the reason why I continued reading the books. So seeing him portrayed on the screen like how he is in the books was amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to see it, especially the scene with like when you find out from this like season 1, he was the one who hired the crows to come in and try to like kidnap Alina and everything. You find out in season 2, and I love like that whole scene where he's like, oh, you don't know who I am, maybe in side profile. I was like, that is Nikolai to a T. And then Kaz and Jesper were like, side eye. Kaz's side eye this entire season, I loved it. It was great. I love all the TikToks where they're like, bombastic side eye, and it's like all Kaz. Amazing, especially like in this scene when he's with Nina and they're like talking about the sword and everything, and she's like, I wonder what this tea tastes like, and he's like, it's hot and it's wet. I'm like, okay, Kaz. I'm just like so happy with how they portrayed Nikolai, like especially like when he could not be bothered to remember who Mal was. Like, honestly, same, but like I ate it up, you know? Loved it. I do have a little bit of like a bone to pick with his character though, because obviously he's Strumhond, and in the book he had a disguise on. So like he was a ginger, he had like a different nose and everything, but in the show he just looked like himself. So like that big reveal scene happened, and he was like, you don't know who I am? Takes off his coat, and they're like, oh, it's the prince, it's the prince. I was like, what is this? And coming from a film background, I was like, you are so capable of doing hair and makeup, like giving him orange hair, giving him like a little bit like different nose. You are so capable of doing that in the show. I don't understand why they didn't, because I can understand like different changes that they couldn't do and what they could do when it comes to a book adaptation, but that was one of the ones I just didn't understand. One of the things that I do understand that they didn't do was like the sea whip. So a lot of the plots in the Shadow and Bone parts of the series were different, like a lot different. What I thought was that season 1 followed the first book pretty well. So I assumed season 2 was gonna follow the second book, and then we would get like a season 3 and it would be the third book. But they kind of like mushed all like the last 2 books together. And they kind of rushed the show, in my opinion, when I didn't think that they really needed to do that. And one of the things that they changed was the sea whip, because in the book, actually the Darkling captures Mal and Alina and Nove Zem, and then he takes them on the ship to find the sea whip with Nikolai as like the captain. And it's a lot different in the book, in the show, and I could see why they did it that way, because I don't know, it just seemed done a lot better in the show than the book, because I think it would have been way more complicated to do how it was in the book in the show. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm not explaining it well, but if you read the book, like, you know what I mean. And I wasn't mad at it, because I actually think that the show makes the book more exciting, in my opinion, because the books kind of bored me a little bit. Whoops. Another thing that these are things that I wish that they did that they didn't. The kiss scene of Alina and Nikolai, because after like they return from finding the sea whip, Nikolai kind of like parades Alina around town, like, oh, like she's gonna be my wife kind of thing, and he kisses her and she like pops and like never do that again. But I think they tried to recreate that with the punching after finding out like he was actually the prince of Ravka. So like we got it a little bit, you know? Another thing I wish they did was, I know they probably could not do this at all, but I'm pretty sure it's the third book. Nikolai is with, I'm gonna say her name wrong because I read it right in my head, but then it's not right when I say it. But the Darkling's mom, Bagra, ugh, whatever. So they're up like high in the mountains in this like safe house kind of thing, and the Darkling finds them and he comes to attack them. And his mom is like, I'm not gonna let my son do this any longer, like, so she goes out to fight him. But literally the Darkling like kills her, and like she falls to her death like from these mountains. And I feel like it's so morbid, but I really wanted to see it happen. I also would have loved to see Oncat Hershaw, and if you read the books, you know, he's like another key character in like the fight against the Darkling, and I just would have loved to see him, but I'm not super mad that he wasn't in it, you know? I do want to touch on Alina's character one more time, because when she did the face-off against the Darkling at the end of the show, I felt like that was when we really got to see the badass, strong, powerful woman that she is in the book, and I loved the way they did that at the end. Like, I just really liked it, but that's all I have to say about Shadow and Bone for right now. We're gonna get to the ending later, because that's a lot to unpack, okay? It's a lot. But now we're gonna get to the crows. If you couldn't tell, I love the crows. I love them with every fiber of my being, okay? Okay? And I'm just so glad. I'm so glad with how they are portrayed this season. Like, I feel like every one of the actors ate up their role. Specifically Freddie Carter, okay? He did not come to play. He did not come to play. No, ma'am. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Kaz Dirty Hands Brecker, because we saw him. We saw him with Pekka Rollins, okay? And I was like, the whole time I was watching that scene, I was like, so I'm really interested to see what they do with Pekka Rollins in the spinoff, because we're getting the spinoff. Mark my words, we're getting the spinoff. So obviously the books don't follow Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, because Six of Crows, like the duology, is supposed to happen a lot later than the trilogy of Shadow and Bone. But, you know, they meshed them, like they put them all together in the blender and they press mix. So I was interested to see how they were going to incorporate all of them together. And they did put some of the plot line in the books, like the whole feud with Pekka Rollins. And that's where Freddie Carter ate it up. Like, they did the whole scene with Pekka Rollins' son and the bearing, and like they did that so well. But I'm really interested in seeing how they do that when they do the spinoff. because Pekka Rollins is like a vital part of the Six of Crows duology. So I'm interested to see if they're gonna replace that with something or what they're gonna do when it comes to that. But I was so happy to see that scene though. And then Knej, like the scene where Kaz was like, stay with me, stay Kat-Dam. And she was like, Kazbrucka, I will have you without your armor, or I'll not have you at all. I was like literally freaking out. Oh my gosh. Like that's my, like, I don't know, that's how I'm expressing my feelings, is with these hand gestures. Also, Wylan and Jesper, so like they changed the storyline of them because in the book, like no one knew who Wylan was except Kaz, but Wylan and Jesper in the show have met before, and I liked this because, you know, we're on the edge of our seats, like, oh, is Kaz and Nej gonna happen? When is Matthias and Nina gonna happen? Like, we need someone to root for, and they gave us that with Wylan and Jesper, and I'm just so happy. Also, side note, whoever put Jesper in a skirt this season, you need a raise. You need a raise. Also, like, I really would like another season so we can see more of Matthias, because my boy will always be stuck in the prison. Like, he'll be stuck in Hellgate if we don't get another season. Let's talk about the hallucinations, because I actually really loved that they incorporated the crows this way in the show. I thought it was so fun, like their little adventure on the side. So the hallucinations. Let's talk about Inej's first, because the fact that Kaz asks her, like, oh, may I have permission to touch you? Because Inej was in the menagerie and no one ever asked her for consent. Like, they just went and like took what they wanted. And I just like think that's like so important. It's so important to me that he asked if he could touch her. And then Kaz's hallucination, first of all, is heartbreaking. Because it's about him and his brother Jordy. Second of all, the fact that he sees Inej coming to save him, and then I'm gonna put a picture here, but you can see that he actually looks like he's content a little bit, but like she has her hand covering his mouth, and at that point he doesn't know someone is touching him. So he just like is happy that he sees Inej coming to save him. And then when he realizes that someone's touching him, he freaks out, and I'm just like, it's so sad. And like the whole scene where like he doesn't have his gloves on, and then like he freaks out and he's like running around, and Inej is the one that comes to give him his gloves back. And she's like, I couldn't leave you like this. I also love that everyone is having these terrible hallucinations and Jesper's just like having the time of his life. Like, I love that for him. And we get to see his mom, and his mom is such an important part of the books, and I'm just like so happy he had that moment. I loved it. And then in the meantime, Wylan is like in the courtyard like watching these butterflies. He's like, oh, like they're so beautiful. And I'm just like, that is so true. Like, he would be doing that. I loved it. I loved their whole sideline story. And then when Inej comes in with the sword and like slices the shadow monster, I was like, Miss Girl. Okay, it's time to talk about the biggie, the ending. The ending had me gagged. It had me gagged, okay? Because, first of all, we get a little like Kaz's little thing, like, oh, this is the most crazy job we've ever taken, like allusion to the ice heist, which like, I can't wait. But then we have Inej going off on a boat with Tolia, and there's that weird thing. I'm like, no thanks. Thank you, but no, I don't want that. But also, I'm happy for her journey, because in the end of Crooked Kingdom, she wants her own ship to go deal with all the slavers so people don't get treated like she did and like slaved in the menagerie or different like pleasure houses like she was in Ketterdam. So like, I think that she needs to have that journey, so then in the end she can be her own captain and be doing this again. So good for her. Love that for her. But I'm wondering how she's gonna make it back to the Crows. As for Nikolai and Alina, this was weird to me, because the whole show and the whole book, Alina and Mal are just like, I can't wait till this is all over and we can have normal lives and we can be together and we can be happy and we can be in love and like all that stuff. But the second they get back, after like they destroy the fold and everything, she looks at Mal, she's like, if we're meant to be, like, we'll find our way back to each other. And I'm just like, what happened? Like, what happened to the original plot of this movie? I just thought it was really weird because they kind of were preaching the whole time, like, about they were gonna end up together, and then they like, Alina just didn't. She just let Mal go away. My camera battery died, but I remember I was talking about my hatred of Mal and Alina. Not really though, I was just talking about how it was just so weird that Alina just allowed him to leave after she like sobbed and like brought him back to life and like made sure, because she was like, I can't let him go, like I will not kill you and all this stuff, and then she was just like, oh, bye. So then we have Nikolai, and in the end we see Nikolai in like a mirror getting ready for the coronation, and he sees his reflection and it's one of the Darkling shadow monsters. This is weird because in the books, the monster that Nikolai becomes is actually kind of like, it has wings, and it's kind of, I don't want to say gargoyle-like, but like I don't know how else to explain it, but in the show they portrayed it as one of the shadow creatures. So that's weird to me, and I'm wondering if they're going to change that in the next season, because we're gonna get a next season, you know? So I'm wondering about that. Also the little like, the little fly that lands on Zoya's shoulder when they're in the fold. But let's talk about the big kicker of the end, okay? The coronation. So we have Agrisha, and she takes Jurda Perim. And then she stands up and she's like killing everyone. But somehow, Alina manages to do the cut. But the cut is not with powers of light, it's with powers of dark. And then she gets this little like evil smirk on her face. She's like, she kills the Grisha. And I'm just like, what was that? Ma'am. And I was just, I have no words to describe it. Like, I'm not mad about it. I'm just genuinely shocked by the ending because I did not see it coming. And I don't know how it's gonna play out. I'm just genuinely just shocked by it. Thank you guys so much for completing that journey with me. I know I was all over the place, but that's what happens when I talk about things that I love. So I wanna know if you love the show, if you hated the show, things that you wish they didn't do from the book, or things that you wish they did do from the book. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below because I would love to hear them. And yeah, any comments about videos that you want to see me do, leave them below as well, and I can't wait to film them. And I can't wait to see you guys all in my next one.